Hey guys, what's up? It's Kevin for the win, and we're back for another edition of Diablo III. Today on the channel, we are taking a look at the Seeker of Light set for the Crusader class. This is one of these sets that focuses on Blessed Hammer as well as the Falling Sword abilities. So here's what it does. The two-piece, every Blessed Hammer that hits an enemy reduces the cooldown of Falling Sword. Four-piece, you take 50% less damage for 5 seconds after landing a falling sword. And then the 6-piece bonus just basically says that every time you connect with a falling sword, you increase the amount of damage that you are going to deal with your blessed hammer. So to help enhance the set, we're going to be using Captain Crimson's Silk Girdie because we're going to be using a lot of cooldown, so we'll be able to get even more powerful with it. Obviously, we're going to be using the belt and the boots. We're also going to be using the Flavor of Time, Gabriel's Vampresses, because that will allow our Blessed Hammer to do more damage to our opponents. We're also going to be using the Guard of Johanna. That helps increase the amount of damage that Blessed Hammer does as well. And last but not least, we're going to be using Faithful Memory, because every time we land with a Falling Sword, we can increase the amount of damage that we are doing with our Blessed Hammers up to about 20 stacks. These are the skills you are going to want to run here. Akrat's Champion Prophet. You're going to be wanting to run Shield Glare just to be able to do some crowd control. Steed Charge so that you can get a bit more mobility. These are going to be the passives that you're going to use. Heavenly Strength, Blunt. We're also going to be using Indestructible as well as Finery because this gives us more damage. In the cube, Johanna's Augment. That's the best thing you can use for Blessed Hammer because it increases the attack speed and size. Sacred Harvest as well. So pretty much this is what the Paragon is going to be set up. If you need a more detailed description of all the skills and the passives, I will link you to Icy Veins. Very good resource for Diablo 3. Today for this demonstration, we are going to do a Greater Rift 60, 65, 70, and a 75. So that will cover basically Torment 13 through Torment 16. So that should satisfy just about everybody in regards to how well this armor will perform. Keep in mind, this is not a fully optimized set. By optimized, I mean it is not has every piece Ancient Legendary, and it's not been augmented in every slot with Ancient Legendary gems. So this set is very straightforward. Right when you get into a Greater Rift, you are going to want to immediately click your Blessed Hammers. Then, right after you click your Blessed Hammers and you see them rotating around you, such as you see here, you're going to want to drop a Falling Sword. When you drop a Falling Sword, thanks to what you have in Kanai's Cube, you will also cast Judgment. As you cast your Falling Sword, your Blessed Hammers that are out and the ones that you continue to cast will deal more damage. Shield Glare is here for when you run into Elite Packs. When you see an Elite Pack or you see a Rift Guardian, you're going to Shield Glare, Falling Sword, Blessed Hammer, and that's pretty much the strategy that you're going to follow. This is one of the more simplistic sets for the Crusader, ironically. There's not really much you're going to be doing here outside of Blessed Hammer, Falling Sword. Blessed Hammers will help increase the amount of cooldown on your Falling Sword. You will drop Falling Sword again, and you will keep repeating this process as you keep getting up to 20 stacks. Blessed Hammers will pretty much steam through just about everything in sight. So you just keep following that particular pattern. Faithful Memory is pretty much your go-to in regards to the weapon you want to use. Now, you could switch this around, and you could use Johanna's Augment as your actual weapon, and then instead you could put Faithful Memory in the cube. It's really not going to matter. Either or, they're basically interchangeable. It depends which one you get as an Ancient Legendary. Now, for optimization for the armor itself, as always, my recommendations would be on the helm, you want 6.0% crit hit ratio chance. That way you can maximize the potential of crit hit damage that you can do. On your gloves, you are going to want to see primarily, I would recommend, and this is hard because it's based on RNG, I would recommend attack speed at least 6, preferably 7 or higher would be great. Crit hit damage, roughly 50% should be probably the maximum you should be going for with that. And crit hit chance, 6.0%. Again, this will allow you to do the optimal amount of damage, because the more crit hit chance that you have and the more crit hit damage means you're doing more critical damage to your opponents. More critical damage obviously means you do a lot more damage, as they're considered critical hits. So that's why I always in these guides recommend you invest in that, even when it's a class that does not primarily need critical hits to function. It's never a bad thing to be able to do more damage regardless of the class. That's why I recommend these things. Now, in regards for secondary things that you should be looking for, anywhere where you can get a falling sword that is 15%, which is the maximum percentage you can get on falling sword ability and armor pieces, do that. Anywhere that you can get a augment boost to Blessed Hammer, although there's really not too many pieces in this set where you're going to be able to find a slot for Blessed Hammer, definitely try to do that, but I would recommend buffing Falling Sword. The issue with Falling Sword is it's really good at buffing your Blessed Hammers, but Falling Sword as an ability and for its damage output is not very good, especially as you get higher up in the Greater Rifts, which is why it's worth investing that 15% to just be able to get a bit more damage. Now, as for the gems that you're going to be using, this is a perfect segue here, as you can tell. We are going to be using a Bane of the Stricken, Bane of the Trapped, and if you haven't already guessed, since we're focusing a lot on cooldown, we are using a Goak of Swiftness. Now, I have those gems pretty high up, so what we're going to do is just kind of level up a random gem that I will use in the future to augment a armor piece. Maybe not for this particular armor set, maybe for something different. So the 4 things that you're really going to want to do with this armor set is simple. Once you get into a Greater Rift, it's Blessed Hammer you're casting. Then you're going to cast a Falling Sword. Primarily wait for a large group of mobs, enemies, whatever you want to call them, to drop down on them, because that way, based on the ability that you're using, or the rune, I should say, for Falling Sword, you will be able to increase the amount of cooldown for that. And why are you going to drop a skill that usually relies on area of effect? If there's only one enemy there, it's pretty much you're wasting a Falling Sword. Case in point here, I thought I was going to be able to hit all of them. No, because Falling Sword pretty much locked into that one target. So you have to time these things right. But really, Falling Sword's just to get the Blessed Hammer more powered up. Now, furthering down in optimization, when you get to the boots, obviously you're going to want 12% movement speed. 12% movement speed doesn't seem like a whole lot of movement speed, but if you're investing as well in your Paragon and you have your movement speed at maximum, this will allow you to move through Greater Rifts more fast and efficiently. Faster is a good thing if you're looking for higher leaderboard placement, particularly in Season 22 of Diablo. So 12% plus the amount that you're investing in Paragon points will be a tremendous amount of speed, which will allow your character to move faster. It will allow your character not so much to attack faster, because that's its own primary stat in regards to Paragon, but moving faster is definitely something that the Crusader can benefit with. And well, also while you factor in the fact that we're using Steed Charge, not that we're going to be using it too much, but case in point here, we use it to get somewhat of distancing. You are going to want to be fast. Fast is pretty much what everybody goes for in regards to Diablo 3. Whether you're casual or competitive or semi-competitive, that's one of the things you definitely want to invest in. So definitely on your boots, 12%. Now, furthering on in optimization, anywhere where you can get cooldown of 7.0%, even 5% will be fine, especially in the lower Greater Rifts. Definitely make sure to do that. Why? Well, first off, Captain Crimson will get a significant boost thanks to that. Also, the less amount of time you are waiting for your Falling Sword to actually come back from cooldown, the better it is for you, because you can help increase your chances of getting the maximum amount of 20 stacks so that Blessed Hammers pretty much decimate through everything. So remember, in order to power up the Blessed Hammer, you need to be able to drop a lot of Falling Swords. Falling Sword is an ability that naturally takes a long time to cool down, which is why you can use Royal Flawless Diamonds to be able to help mitigate that, but in particular, Falling Sword, in conjunction with the rune that we're using, will help mitigate some of that cooldown. So But if you can fit it in your armor, definitely somewhere, most likely, probably, I would recommend the breastplate, or particularly the pants. Although for this build, yeah, you have the pants in this build because we're using the belt for Captain Crimson and the boots, if I'm not mistaken. And if not, you can always go belt and pants for Captain Crimson on this, and it's perfectly fine as well. But definitely get cooldown wherever you can. Cooldown is your best friend because it allows you to get more stacks. And pretty much that's what's going to be your go-tos here. Now, as you get higher up in the Greater Rifts, case in point here, another nice little segue you could say, definitely make sure to cast your Akarat's Champion. Akarat's Champion will give you a significant defensive buff, which is very important because as you go higher up in the Greater Rifts, the mobs will have more attack damage that they can do to you, as well as more HP. So it pays to be a bit tanky. On top of that, it will help increase your attack a little bit. So that will allow you to clear things a bit faster and take care of particularly elite packs that might be giving you an issue. As for armor pieces, as always, I recommend Ancient Legendary. Why? Because those are the only type of armor pieces and weapon pieces that will allow to be augmented with Ancient Legendary gems. Now, yeah, you'll probably have to be at the mercy of RNG because the Seeker of Light set is not the starter set for Season 22 of Diablo. Instead, you get the Crusader set, which is the Valor set, which is a very good S-tier build, although it's lost a lot of favor with the Bombardment Crusader. All these builds I've already covered in the beginning of Diablo Season 22. Those are available in the playlist. You can check them out. Just look at our Diablo 3 playlist, and you should be able to find them. We've covered 3 different variations of S-tier armor builds here. We looked at the Thorns of Invoker set, which is a Bombardment Crusader build, which is more tanky and will allow you to take more hits at the expense of dealing a little bit less damage. Then we also took a look at the Akarat's Champion hybrid version of the Bombardment build, which sacrifices a bit of the tankiness for a lot more power and a lot more cooldown. That one is just as good, but it will struggle a little bit in higher Greater Rifts. And then the third S-tier build is what we were just talking about, Valor Crusader as it's called, which is pretty much a zoning set that relies on Fist of the Heavens and Heaven's Fury. So if you are one of those Diablo 3 players that does not like to get up close and personal in your battles and you prefer to attack things from a great amount of distance, I would probably recommend Valor Crusader. Now, if you're looking for something that's more in your face and just dropping tons of bombardments down on your enemies and pretty much steamrolling through things, I would recommend either of the Bombardment Crusader builds. However, I would say Thorns of the Invoker is slightly better because it is able to take those hits particularly well in high Greater Rifts and deal still a tremendous amount of damage thanks to its 6-piece set bonus. Now, as terms for Seeker of Light set, where does it fall really on the tier list? That's a very good question. I would say this is really a B-tier armor set. Blessed Hammer is not particularly a bad skill. Falling Sword is not particularly a good skill. In conjunction with them working together in this particular armor set, you will be able to clear Greater Rifts of, I would say, roughly about 100 to 120 this is going to cap out at without really full augmentation. It's going to lose a lot of speed in higher Greater Rifts just based on the fact that Blessed Hammers start to not do as much chip damage on high Greater Rifts because of the amount of HP that mobs have. And Falling Sword, there is no real ability or thing that you could put in Kanai's Cube to pretty much augment the amount of damage that it is going to be able to dish out. Now, Seeker of Light as a set is really good if you are just trying to farm on low levels of Greater Rifts to be able to get better things and better weapons and gears for our armor sets, because on a Greater Rift of level 40, 45, 50, and even to a certain extent 55, you should be able to clear things out within roughly non-optimized 2 minutes, free minutes would be very, very shocking with this set. But it's really good at farming on low-grade rifts. High-grade rifts, that's where it's going to struggle because this is not really meant to be the end-all to be all. And keep in mind, you also have to be concerned with, case in point, in this particular dungeon, as you see, there are not a lot of enemies near me, which means I can't cast Falling Sword. And if I'm not able to consistently cast Falling Sword, those Blessed Hammers are not able to do the maximum amount of damage. Another thing that you are going to notice in this particular dungeon layout is that Blessed Hammer has a certain range and circular motion as to where the hammers are going to fall. In very tight, narrow passageways and corridors and paths, these Blessed Hammers get caught in the edges, they get caught in the walls, they get caught in various places where they are not able to hit enemies. Or if you're going down a lane, particularly like a stair-like structure, Blessed Hammers don't really move around with you. So they're going to probably hit at the top of the stairs, and you're going to be on the bottom of the stairs, and all those hammers that you have casted are not going to hit anything that are on the lower levels. Blessed Hammers do not home. If they homed, probably be a much better skill, but unfortunately that is just the way they were developed. Now, one thing you could do as a trick for the Seeker of Light set is, as I've mentioned many times on the channel before, Diablo III enemies are programmed to come towards you when they see you, and they will also follow you. So in theory, if you set yourself in the center of a very large, densely populated mob area, they will all come to you, which will allow you to just cast your Blessed Hammers as you stand straight. Now, another skill that you could use, or another 2 items you could use, if you would like to try that type of strategy, although I don't necessarily recommend it, is you could put the Compass Rose necklace, and you could put, or correction, the Traveler's Pledge necklace and the Compass Rose ring on your armor set, and then that will say if you're standing still and these Blessed Hammers are attacking, it'll do more damage. If you're moving, you will take less damage. I particularly prefer the Flavor of Time because those extra amount of time and usage you get out of your pylons is extremely vital for a armor set that is not S tier. As you can see, this lightning has been extended tremendously thanks to the Flavor of Time, which will help long-term with Blessed Hammers since it will be able to pick up things that I'm not able to hit with them. So that's why I recommend that. Now, as always, these are recommendations for everybody to try out. There are various different builds that you can try out. Some will work better than others. It's really a matter of your personal preference and your playstyle. So keep that in mind. With that being said, I would say you're looking at a B-tier armor, which will do okay up until about Greater Rift 75, which we're going to come up on not too soon from now, because I'm pretty much at the end of this Greater Rift. And you'll start to see why it starts to take a significantly longer amount of time to kill things because of the HP. So B-tier, if you're looking to just have a bit of fun or farm things on low levels, this could be a fun armor to take a look at for funsies. If you're trying to play more serious Diablo and just want something super fast and super powerful, Bombardment Crusader, either 2 variations, that is pretty much your go-to. And if you like the zone, then just go with Valor Satyr. With that being said, Season 23 of Diablo. It seems crazy that we're already going to be starting to talk about Season 23, but Season 23 of Diablo's PTB, which stands for Public Test Build, recently went live for PC users. Season 23 of Diablo will basically be released sometime in April. My guess would be probably the 2nd to 3rd week of April, depending how long they have the PTB out. Traditionally, PTBs last for about a month. So it started last week. Looking at my calendar now, we are on March 1st. I would say probably April, the 1st or 2nd week of April, because they do some modifications based on the player feedback. So that's that. Now, Season 23 of Diablo is looking extremely interesting. First thing that I'm very excited for is the fact that the Firebird set, a set which I just recently covered here on the channel, which I said needed a lot of buffs and a lot of reworking to be able to be even somewhat usable in this current meta of Diablo, is actually getting buffed and reworked. They are fixing the 6-piece bonus, and they are modifying the 2-piece bonus. So now, something that was not used in the set before, called Disintegrate, which is a skill, now does more damage thanks to the Firebird 2-piece bonus, and it automatically casts Incinerate whenever you use the Disintegrate ability. I don't know why they chose to do rhymes, but they made it rhyme. Probably intentional. So, now you will be able to set things on fire a lot easier, which will allow your 6-piece bonus to do more damage, although they have modified the 6-piece bonus. I will probably cover a Season 23 Diablo patch notes before I actually even get into any videos for it at a later date when we get closer to Season 23 of Diablo. But Firebird has gotten some buffs, which it definitely needed. Disintegrate is an ability that wasn't really used on anything, so now it finally has a use on an armor set. And I think it's probably a step in the right direction. I don't know if people will really use meteors anymore when it comes to Firebird. We'll probably have to see what else the developers have planned for it. Obviously, it's being tested now to see if it's too weak or too powerful. And after they get some player feedback, they will either make modifications to it to either make it less powerful or more powerful, hopefully more powerful, because that armor has a hard time even trying to finish greater Rift 70s, even when you have it optimized. So that's something I'm definitely looking forward to and experimenting with. Another very surprising thing that has come out of Season 23 of Diablo so far is the Rothmon set. Another set that I featured recently on the channel has been modified. For all intents and purposes, Rothmon still works the way it used to, but the 4-piece bonus now gives a damage increase to a skill called Bone Spirit. Bone Spirit was never used on Rothmon. I have not seen it ever used on any Necromancer build. According to the patch notes from the developers, they felt that when it came to Rothmon, it played too similar to all the other Necromancer builds, which is not really wrong when you think about it, because most of the Necromancer builds that I've covered all kind of rely on the same skills and the same abilities, and there's really no variation to it. So Bone Spirit, something that was never used, is getting buffed with Rothmon. It's getting a new armor piece. I believe it's either a bracer or a shoulder piece, and that thing is going to also buff the amount of Bone Spirit damage that is done when Land of the Dead is cast. So there's a lot of interesting things coming for Rothmon. They buffed it up. It should be interesting to see if this will get people to play Bone Spirit and if it will get people to play Rothmon. Rothmon is a armor that really is considered probably C, about C tier for Necromancer players. Obviously, there's better options on the S tier list. Primarily Bone Spear Necromancer, which was something I felt that they were actually going to nerf based on how powerful it had become in Season 22 of Diablo. Didn't get any nerfs to it. Instead, though, Rothmon's going to get some buffs, and we're probably going to see, finally, Bone Spirit get some play. I've actually never experimented with Bone Spirit, so it should be fun to try something new for the Necromancer, which is pretty much what developers had intended. Now, the last thing on this list of changes that I'm looking at right now that will probably have some people upset, and maybe it won't, there are 2 nerfs to 2 popular armor sets. The first nerf is to the Gears of Dreadland set, which is the Spin to Win Demon Hunter class set. They have now set it so whenever you are doing your strafe, Hungering Arrow only casts twice. So it no longer will cast 4 times, which means it's going to do a significant amount of less damage. I guess they felt that this armor was overperforming, which is true. It has been overperforming since it was introduced 2 seasons ago in Diablo Season 21, and it has really not lost steam whatsoever. It's just gotten powerful, and it is at the highest placement of the leaderboards still, because that is pretty much what people are going to. So obviously they have nerfed that. Speaking of other nerfs, another very popular armor build from this particular season of Diablo, the Mundanugu set, has been nerfed. Not primarily the armor set itself. However, one of the offhand weapons that it uses, called Gazing Demise, they have nerfed the amount of Spirit Barrage damage that you can do. In fact, they've put a cap on it of 20 stacks. So Spirit Barrage has taken a significant hit in terms of the amount of power and damage that it can do. Reasoning behind that was they felt that the Mundanuga set was overperforming, which means, again, it was super high on the leaderboard placement, and it was something that people were using pretty much as the only Witch Doctor set, which I can't blame them for because it's just so much better than any of their options. I've discussed that. All these armors are available in the playlist, so definitely make sure to check them out. We will have to revisit a lot of them in Season 23 based on the changes, which we will do in the future. This should be a 6-minute clear time on greater of 75. Let's see. 5 minutes and 33 seconds, so that's not bad. Okay, guys, so this is the Seeker of Light set. Cast Blessed Hammer, drop Falling Sword, rinse, repeat, recycle, whatever you want to say. This is pretty much what you're going to do. Blessed Hammer, a Falling Sword, Blessed Hammer, Falling Sword, and that's all there is to this armor. Well, thanks for watching. Make sure to give this video a like and subscribe, and I will be back on Wednesday for the next Diablo free video, and leave in the comments what you think about Season 23 changes to Diablo 3.